We're on Daf Yud. I think we're on Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph in the middle of the Amud. The Tarnagol Lavan.
So if you could just say before Shlema, please.
Oh, yes. For Shlema to
Ilah
Chaya Bas Sarach.
Sure.
But you don't have to ask. You should just say it.
No, okay.
It's I really went looking online to see if I could find a way to put it onto the screen every day. It would help me remember and I could read it out. But it seems it's very complicated. And everyone's always says computers are very easy. But I think if you're over 50, everything is very hard.
Let's make it 40.
I don't know. When I was 40, I don't think they even had computers yet. Barely. He didn't have Zoom, that's for sure. Okay, so we're on Yudalit Amud Aleph in the middle of the Amud. Amr of Yoina, Amr of Zera. So Tarnagol. We listed in the Mishnah a number 4 or 5 items that are de facto things that are generally used by non-Jews or Avdei Kechavim for Avoda Zara, and therefore you're not allowed to sell to them because Dr. Gemara. Amr of Yoina, Amr of Zera. So one of the things was a Tarnagol Lavan, a white rooster. Amr of Yoina, Amr of Zera, Amr of Zvid, Bikdamas, Amr of Yoina, Amr of Zera. We said B'Shem of Zera, right in the middle of Yudalit Amud Aleph by the 2 dots. So that which we say that you can't sell a white rooster, the Mishnah says you can't sell a white rooster, that it depends on how it was sold. Means what the person asked for. Tarnagol lemi mutter. If the purchaser, if the Oived Kechavim said, "Who has a rooster?" He didn't say anything about a white rooster, and the Jew said to him, "I've got a white rooster," and he took it. Then it's mutter. The guy wasn't looking specifically for a white rooster, so we don't assume he wants it for Avodah Zarah. Mutter limka loy Tarnagol lavan. He could sell him even a white rooster. Tarnagol lavan lemi. But if the purchaser, the Oived Kechavim, says, "Who has a white rooster?" Also limka loy Tarnagol lavan. Then you can't sell him a white rooster. So that's the case of the Mishnah. And the Mishnah says you can't sell a white rooster, according to Rav Zera, is only when he was specifically asked by the Oived Kechavim for a white rooster. Praktik Gemara, Tnan, Yehuda Aimer, Moichu loy Tarnagol lavan bein ha-tarnagolim. Our Mishnah had continued and said that Yehuda argues on the Tanakama. He says you can sell, if you're selling a group of roosters, a bunch of roosters, a pallet full of them, and some of them happen to be white, that's not a problem. Because then we don't assume that the Oived Kechavim is buying it, he's buying roosters for whatever, to eat them. So Hechida, what is this case of Yehuda? Tarnagol lavan lemi. So there's 2 sides to this equation. There's what the purchaser, the Oived Kechavim, is asking for, and what you are selling to him. So if we're talking about where, like Reb Zera said, that the only time it's asur is where the Oived Kechavim asked specifically for a white rooster, and he was running around looking for a white rooster. How could it be mutter to sell him a large group? It doesn't make a difference that you're selling him a large group. He was looking for a white rooster. Now you're offering to sell to him as part of a larger group, but we could still assume he wants it for Avodah Zara l'chayra. Elamai must be talking about when Yehuda says that's going to be mutter if you sell as part of a larger sale with other roosters. It's talking about where he hadn't asked specifically for a white rooster. And even so, Yehuda says it's only mutter if you sell where the Oived Kechavim asked for stam roosters. And Yehuda says you can only sell to him a white rooster together with other roosters. but on its own you can't, because they're afraid that then that's what he really wanted. He always wanted just to get the white rooster. And according to the Tanakama, it wouldn't even help if it was amongst other roosters, even though he had originally said he had not mentioned anything. The purchaser had not mentioned anything about a white rooster from the start of the Eved Kechavim. So this is not like Rav Zera. Rav Zera says when he didn't ask, when the Eved Kechavim did not ask specifically for a white rooster, it's mutter. And now we're seeing both according to Rav Yehuda and the Tanakama. According to the Tanakama, under all circumstances, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, when he asked specifically for if he's selling him only a white Tanagal, it's awesome, even though he hadn't asked for it. Nachman Yitzchak says, no, there really are three options that are possible. Meaning, it's not the only two possibilities are either that the Eved Kechavim asked for a white rooster, or he asked for Stam rooster. It could be a third possibility, which is in between, where he said, I want a white rooster and a red rooster and a black rooster. That means he said two things. So it's not as bad as just asking for a white rooster, and it's not as good as asking for Stam rooster. So in that's the case of our Mishnah, where Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim and the Tanakama are arguing about what happens when he said B'fnei Atzmai. But they would both agree that if he said specific, if the Eved Kechavim asked specifically for a white rooster, that you would have to assume he wants it for Avoda Zara and would be awesome. Tanya Namihachi, Rabbi Yehuda, Ein Masai Bizman Sha'am B'Tanakol Zeh Lavan. When does Rabbi Yehuda say that it's going to be also where he said, I want a white rooster. But if he says, I want a white and a different color, then it's mutter. Okay. Even so, we've come to the conclusion, if someone says, I want a white rooster, it's also to sell to Eved Kechavim such a rooster, because he's using it for Avoda Zara. Sagt the Gemara, Vafilu Amar Tarnagol Zeh Eved Kechavim she'asa mishtal v'noyet she'haylo chaylo b'teich beisay mutter. Even if it would normally be usher, where he asked he wants a white Tarnagol, there is an exception to the rule that it's usher, and that's where the Eved Kechavim says, I'm making a mishtal v'noy, which normally means he wants to make a wedding for his son, or he has someone who's sick in his house, and we know the Yid knows that that's the case. In that case, he wants it specifically for this non-Avoda Zara use. There could be, it's possible to have other reasons to want specifically a white rooster. One would be to celebrate, it's a more chashuv thing, so he wants it to celebrate his son's wedding, or it's considered to have therapeutic powers, so he wants it for a chayla. So then it would be mutter. For Gemara, for Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah earlier. We had said that Eved Kechavim was making a mishta l'bnai. You're not allowed to engage in commerce with him on that day. This is not a holiday, a general holiday, but it's considered a holiday for that person because he's going to use it. Part of there's an Avoda Zara element to the wedding of Eved Kechavim. And therefore, you're not allowed to engage in any commerce. So how could you sell him a white rooster specifically for this Avoda Zara holiday, this personal holiday? So how are we saying that this? We're saying this is an exception, that even though normally you can't sell a white rooster to a guy because we're chayshish he'll use it for Avoda Zara, but if we know he's making a wedding, then it's okay. How could that be? A wedding is a personal holiday where people are Avoda Zara. It should be worse, not better. Rav Yitzchak bar Brav Mesharshia b'tavzig. We didn't say you're talking about a wedding. We said she'asa mishta l'bnai. This is not talking about a wedding. This is talking about he was making a party for his son. Some other kind of party. Does Rashi say, Hai mishta diktani muta limkaloi? So Gras now love Mr. Chuppe benoid the Avoda last carves that was coming goodbye. Elo Mr. Some Mareya Oisen Hana Aram Zem Ze. The Kairin Kamprusha. They get it, they make it's like a sweet 16 party or something like that. So it's a non-sectarian party, it's not a wedding party. Tnan. B'shar kol advarim staman mutter pirushin aser. Our Mishnah continued, and it said that other shar kol advarim, meaning not the what do you call it? Strabulin, Ubnei Shuach, and Levina, and Tarnaga, Lavan. These are things that are ulul. They're likely to be used for Avodah Zara, but there are some things, stam kol advarim, other things. If you sell to them stam, it's mutter. Or perushin aser, and if you mafarish, it's aser. My stam and my perushin. What does it mean, stam, and what does it mean to be mafarish to specify? Ilay mistama de ka'amar chiti chavarta. Perushin de ka'amar lavayis kechav. If we say stam, is you just say the name of the thing. Say I'm selling white wheat. So white wheat is a specific kind of wheat, but you're not saying you want it for avodah zara, so that's stam. But if you mafarish it lavayis zara, then it's awesome. In fact, the Gemara, lo stam and tzricha l'meimer. Why would the Mishnah have to tell you that if you say I'm selling white wheat is not used for avodah zara, that it's mutter? Of course it's mutter. There's no such thing that you can't sell anything to avodah kechavim, because maybe without any reason to suspect it, he's using it for avodah zara. And let's tzricha l'meimer de mazvinan, but like pirushin tzricha l'meimer de loy mazvinan. And we also don't have to say, if he's saying I want to buy a white wheat to use for my avodah zara, it's certainly lifnei iver to sell it to him. He's saying exactly what he intends to do. So you don't have to tell me, the Mishnah wouldn't have to tell me that it's asa. Ella stam de ka'amar chiti. It just means that he says stam chita. Pirushin de ka'amar chavarta. And pirushin is where he said that it's white wheat, which is a little more chashuv. And as long as he was mafarish that he wants a specific type of thing, then it's also to sell to him. So tomorrow, but with this now we're talking about the things that there were two sets. There were the beginning of the Mishnah talked about the things that we know are used for avodah zara. And now we're talking about the things that are not used for avodah zara. And we're saying if he's mafarish exactly what it is, that he wants something specific, it's always also because maybe he wants it for avodah zara. Mechlal the time of the afilu stami nami. Loy. That sounds like, but a tarnagol, even if you sell a tarnagol that's not chaviri, that's not white, you can't sell it. That doesn't make any sense. We said that only a tarnagol lovan, not stam tarnagol. Stam tarnagol is not also to sell. Amri la'olam stam deka amar chiti nami loyami. Zakt the Gemara, la'olam stam deka amar chiti chavarta. So Gemara says, no, we have to go back to what we had originally suggested. That stam means where he said chiti vart, and he didn't say anything about avodah zara. Pirushin de ka'amar la'avodas kechavim. And where he was mafarish, he said, I didn't want to buy it. The guy said, I want to buy it la'avodas kechavim. So we had asked before, if he says, I want to sell it for avodas kechavim, why do I need to say that? Obviously, it's asa. Upirushin it's strictly, but we really only need it for the second part. And the first part that we had said staman is mutter, just because we were saying pirushin is aser, we said that staman is mutter. But what pirushin tzrichale? What do we need to say that if he says he's selling it for avodah zara, what do I have to tell you that it's also to sell? He's clearly should be lifnei, right? He doesn't really need it for avodah kechavim, even though he's saying that's what he wants it for. He's a full-fledged believer. He's very he can't understand how anyone wouldn't agree with him about the wonderfulness of his avodah zara, of his getchka. It's like everyone who's in a cult. He thinks that everyone, just like if I could just get 5 minutes to explain to you, you're going to certainly agree with me about how wonderful it is. And he says, so listen, everyone must really deep down agree with my avodah zara. So I'm going to say I want it for avodah zara. People will sell it to me at a better price. He'll say, I'm doing it for religious purposes. Certainly, you're going to want to help me be a better Ovid Avodah Zarah. Kamash Malan. So he doesn't even really want it for Avodah Zarah. He's just saying it's for Avodah Zarah to get a better price, but he really wants to eat it. Kamash Malan know that when a person says that that he wants to buy something for Avodah Zarah, he really wants to buy it for Avodah Zarah. Or listen, when the Hamas charter says that they want to kill all the Jews, it means that they want to kill all the Jews. You can take things at face value. Not everything is so complicated.
So this is. I mean, the white rooster we understand because most white roosters are used for avodah zarah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
When it's a white rooster, obviously referring to that's we know it's avodah zarah. Right now we're talking about wheat.
Right. But
What,
he said, I want to buy this white wheat for Avodah Zarah.
So when he doesn't specify, we already established that that's not a chiddush and it's not a problem. So the second half of the statement,
If you didn't, right, it's not specifying was just brought in because of the case of specification.
you may think that so if a guy comes over and says that they want to buy a pencil from you for avodah zarah, this is the same story. They're using wheat. It's not, but let's say a white rooster would be different because that's normally used for avodah zarah.
Right, it doesn't. Right, it wouldn't make a difference. We're not the specification here has nothing to do with the object. It has to do with what he said and what he's using it for.
In his
So
action,
anything that a person says is for Avodah Zarah, I might have thought, unless it's something, I might have thought that it's different than let's say if you get a white rooster, that if it's not a white rooster, which is normally used for Avodah Zarah, if it's something else, maybe I would say that even though he said he's doing it for Avodah Zarah, it should be mutter because he's just doing it to get a better price. He's trying to get the clergy discount.
got it. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not it's not on the chetza, it's on the gavra more.
Exactly.
I guess.
It's right, the usage. Boy Ravashi, Tarnagal Lovan Katua Lami. If Ovid Kechavim, a priest in his cassock, is running around saying, who's got a white Tarnagal that's missing a foot? As we said before, even the Ovid Kechavim stole from us our dinum of mumin, that mumin passel a behema to be used lahakrava, and they lahavdil say that therefore an animal that's missing a limb, they have a less strict rule of it. Their version is that any animal that has an amputee is also to be used for the avodah zarah. So this guy is looking specifically for an animal. He wants a white rooster, but he wants katua that's missing a foot. Mal limkaloi tarnagal lov and shalom. Can you sell him a white rooster that is not missing a foot? Because once he's made it clear that he doesn't want a avodah zarah, because he says he wants katua, can you sell him even a white rooster? Do we say since he wants katua, he clearly doesn't want a avodah and therefore you can even sell him a white rooster? Or maybe this is all a plot. He knows not so many people have roosters that are missing. It's not that often that you find roosters missing a leg. And he knows the Yidden won't sell him a white rooster if he just goes and asks for it. So he figures, I'll ask for one missing a leg. And if they show up with one missing a leg, I'll say, you know what, I'm not interested. Until someone shows up with a full white rooster. So maybe it's all a trick. And if you'll say that we don't trust him and you're not allowed to sell under these circumstances a white rooster. Tanagal lovin lami, Tanagal lovin lami, v'yavule shachar, v'shakal, v'yavule adam v'shakal, ma'u limka loy lovin. If a guy was running around saying, I want a white rooster, and then you offered him, said, I don't have any, I'm not selling you a white rooster. I know what you're gonna use it for. I'll sell you a black one. He says, okay, I'll take a black one. And then he takes a red one. So he bought a bunch of other ones other than the white one. He just said he wants a white rooster. He just likes white roosters. But he wasn't so makban on it because it wasn't for Avodas Gechavim, and he's proven it by buying it. So even though we said in the first case that when he asked for a rooster with a broken foot, with a missing foot, that we said we're worried that he's trying to trick you. In that case, he never actually bought anything. Because if you would have shown up with the one with the broken foot, he would have said no. But over here, we actually went ahead and bought roosters that are not eligible to be used for avodas gechavim. He's proven his bona fides that he's not really using it for avodas gechavim. Maybe no, this is all part of his dastardly plot. Teku. Well, it says we leave it as a take. Remeir ein af dekel tav. The mayor says he adds on an additional type of thing that you can't sell to a guy because he'll use it for avodas gechavim, and that is a good date tree. Amler Chizal Avimi Kamiri Avodas gechavim da Avram Avinu Daled Meya Pirki Havin. In the times of Avram Avinu, there were 400 parakim in the Masechta of Avodas gechavim. It was so widespread and so varied. Vanan Chamisha Tnan, and we only have 5 parakim. And we still, even those 5, we have kashas that we don't understand. Well, my kasha, what is he saying that we still don't understand? What's your kasha in Avodas gechavim that you're so puzzled by? The Tani, Remei Omer Av Dekel Tav Chotzav, the Niklas, also a Dekel Tav, a palm tree, and a Chatzav and a Niklas, also Limkol Avodas gechavim. They're also to sell to avodas gechavim. Dekel tav hudolai mazvinen. Hadekel bish mazvinen. It's mashma that only because it's a good date tree, a fine date tree, that you can't sell because they use it for avodah zara. But a regular dekel you could sell to avodah zara. But tanane mechel hem b'mechabel karka. We have learned that you're not allowed to sell from my Eretz Yisrael. There's a general halacha you can't sell to guy from Eretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to sell the land. So not because of avodah zara, just because we don't. You're not allowed to for the chashivas of Eretz Yisrael. One is not allowed to say they're not allowed to. You're not allowed to sell them anything that's mechubel karka. Amalei my dekel tav paris dekel tav. It doesn't mean that selling an actual date tree. It means the paris of a dekel tav. V'chein amar Avuna paris dekel tav. So we're not talking about something that's mechubel karka, and therefore the only isser is because of avodas gechavim. Chatzav kisva. Chatzav, what is chatzav? Kisva. It's a kind of plant. Where is it? Mint marim. It's a kind of figs or dates. I'm sorry, I have a mental block of which is which. Tomorrow dates, I think. Kamoi mali taska. So it's a kind of dates. Niklas. Niklas kiyaser avdim yomer chaber bayesef kuriti. Niklas is kuriti. Amalei abayler avdimi tnan Niklas v'loyadina ma vat amakurtiz v'loyadina mai. My hanisla. I don't know what the first thing was, Niklas, and then you give me another name for it that I also don't know what it means. So how have you helped me? Amalei ahanoi. I think we could all sympathize with this. Amalei ahanoi lechu dechi azos chasam. When you arrive in Eretz Yisrael, amlu Niklas. You'll say Nicholas, they also won't know what it means. They'll show you what a karaiti is. There are people, even though you don't know what karaiti is, there are other people who know what karaiti is. You go and ask them and they'll show it to you. Zok the Mishnah. Malcham shenogu limka behema daka lo'evdei kechavim moichrim. Malcham shenogu shaloi limka ein moichrim. A behema gasa, smaller animal, there's a chash, like Rashi says, of mishkav behema. A guy is chashed on mishkav behema. So if you sell them, if you sell it to a guy, you were worried about it. So it depends on the place. Some places guy are chashed on this, and some places they're not. So place where they're not, minig is to sell, then you could sell, and welcome the minig is not to sell, you can't sell. However, in every place, you cannot sell a large animal. Like Rashi explains, the Havanin is because, at least the first pshat that the Gemara is going to give is because it's used for work, unlike a behema daka, and we're worried that you're gonna rent or lend a behema. If you sell it to them, you'll also come to rent or lend to them a behema, and they'll use it on Shabbos, and a yid's behema is a mechoyev in shvisa. There's a your behem. Just the Torah says that Just like you are mechayiv in shvisa, your behem is also mechayiv in shvisa. It's not allowed to work on Shabbos. If you lend your animal on Shabbos, it's going to come out. It's going to work to a guy. He's going to use it on Shabbos. Zok the Gemara. And this extends afilu agolim v'seyachim, even if it's a calf or a young foal that doesn't normally work. Shleimim u'shvurim, even if whether they're shalom, whether they're animal that has no problem with shvurim, even if an animal that's missing a leg, or it's not able to work, which is again a gzeira. If you do the ones that are shvurim, if you do the ones that are younger, you'll come to do the older ones and the non-broken ones, and it'll end up that you'll rent them. It sounds like a gzeira, but like we always say, whenever we have this question, you can't make there's no gzeira. We say kula chad gzeira. It's all part of the original gzeira that we're worried that it's going to end up that you're going to rent to a guy a healthy adult animal on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda matir b'shvura. Rabbi Yehuda says a shvura is not part of the takana. Well, you're not going to if a guy buys an animal with a broken leg, he's obviously going to shecht it, and there's no shash that you're going to come to lend him a healthy animal. Ben Beseira matir b'sus. Ben Beseira says you can rent a sus, you could sell a sus, because even if you rent a sus is used to ride on, and Chaynai says atzmai, there's no malach in it. We had this earlier. Remember the surah lekam in hagahu de ikka. Heichad denog iser nog, heichad denog heter nog. Our Mishnah sounds like it's a question of depends on the minig of the place. In some places it's aser, in some places mutter to sell a behema daka, because it depends on whether the people are chashud on mishkav behema. But on mini, if someone goes to an inn that belongs to a guy, you can't stable your animal in his stable because this sounds like a full-fledged isser. It's not. Doesn't seem to be a difference between one place and the next. It seems to be that it's always also to do so. Amar Rav says no. Depends on. This is also dependent on the place. This isser that we said to put the behema daka into the stable of an Ovid Kechavim depends. It's only in a place where the chashed generally to sell to them. You also can't allow them to be yachid with your animal because the chashed ala ravi. Rabbi Lazar gives it different text. He says no. This isser of being miyachid is every place, even a place where they're noig heter to sell. My time, he doesn't want to be, when he buys an animal, he's not going to be reveyed. That means the places where they're noig heter is because they're not so chashud al mishkav behema that they'll do it to their own animal because there's a cost. It can cause the animal to become infertile, unable to reproduce, which is going to cost them money. So the guy won't do that. But if there's an opportunity to be bought, if he's miyachad with a Jew's animal, where there's no cost to it, even a good guy is chashid al mishkav behema, where there's no cost to him. Rav Hadabe, even Rav in the end was chayzer. The Amar Tachlich, Amar Shila Baravim Mishmei the Rav, Avicham Chas al Behemta Shaloi Te'akar. Avid Kechavim is Chas al Behemta Shaloi Te'akar, and that's why b'makom she you're allowed to sell in some mekamis, but you're never allowed to be miyachid, to allow them to be miyachid. Zaktimah b'chol makom ein moichem behema gasa. In every place we don't sell a behema gasa, like we said, because we're chayshish that if you're going to sell it, you're going to come to rent or lend it, and then they're going to be do malacha. Then the Gemara explains, my timer, why is it that you can't sell a behema gasa to a non-Jew? Nehid l'Ravia l'Chayshinin, even though we're not chayish l'Ravia on a behem gasa, mava be'malacha Chayshinin. We're chayish that they're going to use it to do malacha on Shabbos. In fact, no, even the Zavna Kanya, since you've sold it to them, it belongs to them. There's no isser of shvisa on the behemoth that formerly belonged to a yid. It's only while it still belongs to yid. So it's a gzeira because if you sell to a guy, then you'll come to lend him and rent him. Whether you lend it to him or you sold it to him, he's kainet. It's l'chayra. It's when it's his rishus, he has a responsibility for it, and it shouldn't be an isser shvisa. So the Gemara, Rashi says she'ela kanya lema sha'alta the kivin the chayiv einzin hareyu shaloi. He's saying that the Rashi holds that the din of that it belongs to him is because when you pay for it, then you akine it legabi the din shvisa. And he says even when a person borrows something, he's makabel on himself to mechuyev and einzin. So that's almost as if he's paying for it. By borrowing something, you're paying for it, and you were kind of saying, how could you be kind of something without paying? So the kinyan is that he was makabel to pay for einzin. So you should be kained. El Amarami Breder Rav Yeva, it's a different gzera. It's not a gzera that maybe you'll rent it or lend it to a guy on Shabbos and he'll use a yid's behema. It's a gzera mishum nisyoni. It's when you sell it to him, maybe you'll test it out. The zimnin, the zavnin lehalei samach l'shkiyas hachama. Maybe he's selling it right before Shabbos, the Mali Shabsa. V'amalei tanashin. The guy wants to check out that this animal listens properly. And it's going to already be after Shkia, and the guy is holding on to it, and the Yid will say, come here, Bessie, and the cow will come over to him or will go with him based on his instructions. It's good, the Yid wants it to go, because he wants to show that his animal is a good animal, that he should buy it. One is not allowed to instruct his animal on Shabbos to move. That's mechama, that's the issa mechama. You're not allowed to give it instructions. Rashi says, mechamer, this din of mechamer is only when the animal is carrying something. So by instructing it to move on Shabbos, it's being over on that it listens properly while it's carrying the burden. Shabbos. So those are the two possibilities. We had wanted to say because of she'el and schira, but we said she'el and schira l'chayra it's kanya, therefore it wouldn't apply. So therefore, we're saying now that the reason is because of nisyoni that it's going to be mechamer. The behemoth is going to listen. Maskalo, shisha breder vidi, a schiris mikanya. Is it true that schiris is kind of that once it's in the rishus of a renter or a borrower, it no longer is considered to be in the yid's rishus v'atanan. Even the place that we say you could be masker a house. A property to a guy with loyal base diram. You can't do so as a resident. If you rent a guy in Eretz Yisrael a commercial establishment, he's going to use it for business. But if you rent him a house, he's going to use it. He's going to bring his avayis kechavim it. There's nothing wrong if you rent him a house and he has a kinyan in it. So then it's no longer in your rishus. So what's the problem with Ivy Kechav bringing Avoda Zara in it? Wherever he's going to live, he can have Avoda Zara. So what does it make a difference if he does it into his own house? And for the Gemara, Shani Avos the Chamiri. That's not a raya. Avos Kechav is Chamer, even though normally we say the renter is kaina, but because of the Chumra of Avos Kechav, we don't give him a kinyan legabi avodas kechavim. Dechsiv lo isavi se'ev el beisecha. Torah says specifically, we're very machmer that you shouldn't bring avodas kechavim into your house. Maskal Yitzchak Berei the Rebbe Shashia U'Schiris Mikanya. Is it true that Schiris is Kanya? You rejected the pshat of Schiris because it's kind of atnan. Yisrael shacha para mikayim. A regular Yisrael that rented a par from a kayin. Yachilena kashine truma. You can feed him truma. It's not a problem because it belongs to the yid. It belongs to the kayin. So there's no problem with the animal belonging to a kayin to eat truma. The kayin shacha para Yisrael. The other way around, the kayin that rented from a Yisrael. Obviously, as I said, I love, even though the kayin is responsible to feed it, he can't feed it truma. Why can't he feed him truma? It's his own. Once he rents it, he used kain it. It should be in his rishus for the kain to feed truma. El shmami no shkiris like kanya. V'hashad amar shkiris like kanya. Gzeir mishum shkiris, ugzeir mishum sheil, ugzeir mishum nisyoni. We have both of the different gzeros. We have the gzera of shelo or schiris, and we have the gzera of nisyoni. Rav Ada Sora Luzvuni Chamra Hayoda de Safsira. Rav Ada allowed renting to sell an animal using an agent, using a third party, a broker. Imishum Nisyoni, if you're worried about that maybe he'll be Mechamer Acharov, Halayoda Lekale. He doesn't know, he's not gonna the broker can't test out by calling him because he's not the owner, he doesn't recognize his voice. The Azlas Machmas said that he would listen to him. And if you're worried about renting out, he wasn't retained as a broker to rent it out, he was retained to sell it. The broker wants to make a sale, he's not going to rent it out because then he might the person's going to look at it, he knows that once people look at it closely, they're going to see the flaws and they're not going to sell. Okay, we'll stop over here. Yasher Kayach.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.